When did you stop listening to yourself? Not all at once. Not because of one big moment. Not because everything suddenly fell apart. But slowly, quietly, little by little. I think for many of us, it starts in a very ordinary way. Somewhere along the road of trying to survive, trying to become someone stable, someone responsible, the voice inside us begins to fade. Not because it disappears, but because it gets crowded out by expectations, by responsibilities, by what makes sense, by what's practical, by what others need from us, and eventually, by what we expect from ourselves. At first, it all feels right. I remember periods in my life when I felt like I was doing everything correctly. I was responsible. I had plans. I wasn't being unrealistic. I didn't let emotions interfere with decisions. People said I was mature, grounded, smart about my choices. And I believed them. I learned how to compromise with what I wanted. I learned how to push feelings aside so I could focus on what needed to be done. I learned how to choose what was safe instead of what quietly made my heart feel alive. No one told me that was wrong. In fact, I was often praised for it. So I kept going. But somewhere along the way, in the middle of all that effort, I stopped checking in with myself. Not because I didn't care about myself, but because there was always something that seemed more important. Work, family, responsibility, the pressure to be okay. Maybe you've been there too. Maybe you've noticed how your own voice can grow so quiet when you're constantly doing what needs to be done. No one wakes up one morning and decides, "Today I'm going to abandon myself." It happens in small moments. You say yes when something in you tightens. You stay where something feels off because that's just how life is. You ignore discomfort because it feels inconvenient. Because you tell yourself you don't have the luxury to fall apart. You say things like, "This is just adulthood. Everyone feels like this. I'll deal with it later." And for a while, those explanations work. Until they don't. Until you feel tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. Until your days are full, but something inside feels empty. From the outside, everything looks fine. You're doing the right things. You're meeting expectations. You're functioning. But something feels distant, as if you're living a life that makes perfect sense on paper, but doesn't quite feel like yours anymore. I've had moments like that. Moments when I stopped, just briefly. Maybe late at night. Maybe sitting alone in silence. And I realized how long it had been since I asked myself what I actually needed. Not what others needed from me. Not what was expected of me. But what I needed. That realization wasn't dramatic. It wasn't even sad. It felt more like this quiet recognition. I've been moving for a long time. And somewhere along the way, I forgot to bring myself with me. From the outside, your life might not look wrong at all. You have responsibilities. You have stability. You have reasons to be grateful. So when that quiet dissatisfaction shows up, you don't know what to call it. You don't feel entitled to complain. You don't feel like you're allowed to be unhappy. After all, what's actually wrong? So you stay busy. You fill your time. You avoid the quiet. But that inner voice doesn't disappear. It waits. It shows up at night when everything slows down, when no one needs you. It asks questions softly, but persistently. Is this really what I wanted? Who have I been living for all this time? When did I stop listening to myself? Those questions aren't accusing you. They're not demanding change. They just exist. And sometimes, that's what makes them uncomfortable. Because listening now might mean realizing how long you've been quiet. You might start remembering things that once mattered to you. Simple desires. Moments when life felt slower, before everything became about keeping up. Not because those things were unrealistic, but because they didn't fit neatly into the life you were building. So you adjusted. You adapted. You told yourself you'd come back to yourself later, when things settled down, when you had more time, when life felt more secure. But later kept moving. And now, you're not even sure what you'd be listening for. Your inner voice doesn't sound confident anymore. It hesitates. It feels unsure, almost like it's afraid of interrupting. And maybe part of you is afraid to listen too. Afraid of what you might hear. Afraid of realizing how long you've been living on autopilot. Afraid of discovering that the life you built isn't wrong, but also isn't fully yours. Noticing that doesn't mean you failed. It means you adapted in order to survive. You made choices based on what was necessary at the time. You did the best you could with what you knew then. But surviving isn't the same as living in alignment. And there's a difference between growing up and leaving yourself behind. Listening to yourself doesn't mean blowing up your life. It doesn't mean reckless decisions. It doesn't mean having all the answers. Sometimes it just means being honest with yourself in very small moments. Noticing where you feel tense, where you feel numb, and where something still feels alive. Those signals are quiet, ordinary, easy to ignore. But they've been there all along, waiting. You don't have to suddenly know what you want. You don't have to label everything. Just realizing that you stopped listening is already a form of listening. And that matters. Because reconnecting with yourself doesn't happen in one big moment. It happens slowly. Gently, in small pauses you allow yourself. You don't need to judge your past. You don't need to regret the life you've lived. You only need to remember that you're still here. And your voice, the one that actually belongs to you, is still here too. It may feel quiet. It may feel unfamiliar, but it never left. You don't have to answer this question tonight. Just let it be there. When did you stop listening to yourself? And what might change if you started listening again, even just a little more slowly?